In this video, we're going to take a look at rotations. Now, rotations might actually be the most challenging of these four. It is the place where sometimes students get confused. So there's two assignments on rotations. Take your time with them. I know that it can be a challenging thing to do. So if you get frustrated, check in with me. I'll see if I can help. I don't want you going like an hour on this assignment, okay? If you get around, if it's taking you, give 30 honest good minutes and maybe a little bit more than that if you need to. If you start getting up around 45 minutes, why don't you send me an email, we can figure this thing out. So when we're doing rotations, the concept isn't that bad. The idea that I might take something, say these scissors, and I would rotate it isn't that hard of a concept. It is difficult sometimes to nail down exactly what the rotation is or how to take a shape and rotate it. So that's what we're going to look at here. So I have this rotation here. I have A, B, C, and D. And remember, the primes mean that's my new shape. So what I want to do is I want to rotate that. It tells me it's rotating it about the origin. So I can kind of imagine this here. Kind of imagine that it's rotating around like this. Now it asks me, how is this shape being rotated? Is it positive or is it negative? So an important thing to know is that counterclockwise is positive rotation and clockwise is negative rotation. So that might be something worth writing down. Counterclockwise is positive rotation. Clockwise is negative rotation. So notice what's happening here. My shape seems to be rotating probably this way, right? So that's counterclockwise. So that's going to be a positive rotation. Let's look at our options. Our options give us, well, let's see. Let me actually get rid of this guy. So our options give us a couple options. Well, that's why they're called options, I guess. So it's positive rotation, so that narrows it down. It's either 30 or 90. And then let's take a look. How far did that rotate? Well, it didn't rotate many degrees, right? 90 degrees would end you up into the next quadrant fully, because each of these quadrants are 90 degrees. So this should be a 30-degree rotation, right? And then notice here, now it's not on a graph, but you're supposed to kind of imagine what happens here. And what you can do to kind of help yourself with how far it rotated is look at the two of the sides, AB versus A prime, B prime. If I put them right up against each other, that looks like that's making 90 degrees, right? I've got one kind of going like this, one going like that. So that would probably be a 90-degree rotation, but it's negative because it's going clockwise. It's probably negative 90. If you find yourself in a place where you're not really sure, you can always click this, watch a video, or use a hint. Once again, I want you to get all four right without using any hints. Now that's the first one. That one's not too bad. The second one is a little bit of a doozy, okay? But it's part of what we need to learn here, and I think that you can do it. So notice it says it wants to rotate JKLM negative 270 degrees about the origin. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and place my point so it kind of matches up on here. And guys, this is just a little bit difficult. I'll teach you one way to do it. Watch the video, the Khan Academy video if you need to. Hopefully it makes sense, but I do know that this is kind of a challenging thing. So let's first think about 270 degrees. So 270 degrees is about 3/4 of a cycle. Actually, let me put it this way. Let's just take our quadrant. So 270 degrees is negative 270 is clockwise, and it would be about something like that. If I had a point on my x-axis, it would actually end up on my y-axis, positive y-axis. An easier way to think about that would just be a positive 90-degree rotation, right? If I'm going negative 270, that's the same as positive 90. So that's what we're going to do. Now, let me kind of show you how I'm going to set this thing up. Let's start with this point J. Let's figure out where this point J is going. So what I'm going to do is go from the origin and kind of make an L shape. I'm going to go along one of my axes, go over and up. And I've gone over 3, up 3. So same thing, I'm going to take that L shape and I'm just going to rotate it. Over 3, up 3. I'm going to rotate it 90 degrees. So now, up 3, over 3, I end up over here. Right there for my J spot. So let's clear this off and let's take a look. So this J should go, let me get my mouse here. This J should go over here somewhere. And the M point is not liking that at all, but we'll just kind of move it over there. All right. So that's the J spot. Let's do our M spot next, since that's kind of giving me a problem here. Okay, my M spot, again, I went over 3, down 3, so I'm going to go up 3 to the right 3. Notice how I take that L and I just rotate it, because it's easy to think about L's being rotated, right? I've gone on this axis, I'm going to rotate it 90 degrees to that axis, and that's where I end up with. So actually my L shape ends up telling me that my M point ends up right on my J. Now, this is a little bit difficult to work, because if I try to move that M here, it's not going to like it. It's going to say, nope, you can't break the boundary. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to cheat here. I'll move that guy up to M. I'll move this guy over. When you're doing rotations, it's a little bit tricky. All right, so I've got, this is my J point, this is my M point. Let's go ahead and move my L point. So we end up with something that makes sense. Hopefully, actually, yeah, let's do our L point. And again, if you need to, you kind of have to play around with the points a little bit. It can be a little tricky, especially with some of these bigger shapes. And again, this is why this is a little bit harder. So I want to get to my L, so I could draw my L shape one of two ways. I could draw it over and down, or down and over. Either way is fine, whatever one you prefer. I'll just go with this one. And so if I'm going over 1, 2, 3, down what looks like 7, so same thing, down 3, over 7. Notice how I'm preserving the L shape. The part on the axis should be the same on both, 3 and 3. That's going to put me an L point right there. So let me select that. We'll throw this guy up there somewhere, because it's probably going to need to go there. And let me get this. Actually, this point probably needs to go there. All right. Let's see. Yeah. Okay, that's fine. That'll work. All right. So we've got our J, our M, our L. It is important that you go in the right order. If you don't go in in an order around the shape, if you go like J, then M, then K, then L, or whatever, it's gonna end up real messy. All right. We've got our last shape here. We got K. This is could be sitting on our K spot, or we could just get it out of the way. All right. Once again, I'm gonna draw my L here. I'm going to go over 5 and down 1, 2, 3, 4, what looks like 5. Once again, I'm going to go rotate that 90 degrees, over 5, up 5, over 5. That puts me up here for a final answer. And let's take a look. All right, that was a lot of work. Does that get me in the spot that looks right? Does that look like I took that shape and I rotated it 90 degrees? I think it does. That's probably the hardest type of shape you're going to run into. Let's see if we find a little bit of an easier one here. Yeah, here's a triangle. That's going to be a lot easier. So once again, you probably don't need to. This actually might create more work than you need. This one says 180 degrees about the origin. So let's just do a 180 real quick. So over 2, up 2. So a 180 degree rotation is going to be just to the opposite axis and down. So that's going to put me right here for my point. Over 2, down 2. All right, let's check this one. I went over 5 or over 6, up 4. Once again, kind of sketch out our lines here. Over 6, up 4. Over 6, down 4. That's going to put me right about there. And then the last one, let's take a look. I'm going over 5, down 6. You can go in the opposite direction, over 5, up 6. It's going to put me right there. Let's take a look. Let's move that guy, and hopefully it'll look about right. So over 5, up 6. All right, does that look like we rotated it 180 degrees? I think so. All right, perfect. All right, so again, get 4 in a row. This is the hard one. This is the one that's going to cause some problems. This is why you have all day just to do rotations, because I know this is a difficult Khan Academy skill, but you can do it. All right, take your time, be patient. If you try to rush, you're going to find yourself making mistakes, and do the best you can. If you get stuck, send me an email.